All right, let's jump right into this explainer, where we're going to bridge ancient Daoist empirical taxonomies with cutting-edge cognitive neuroscience. The goal here is to really understand one of the most sophisticated somatopsychic methodologies ever developed. Since I know we've got a lot of advanced practitioners, neuroscientists, and philosophers tuning in, we are going to go deep today. We're moving way beyond basic mindfulness to explore the actual biological and energetic architecture of consciousness itself. It's going to be a fascinating ride.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, the somatopsychic foundation. Second, the taxonomy of contemplative types. Third, neurocognition and predictive processing. Fourth, comparative contemplative science. And finally, modern clinical psychotherapy. Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, the somatopsychic foundation, redefining contemplation. To start, we really need to completely reframe our foundational understanding of what Daoist meditation actually is. The crucial takeaway here is that this is absolutely not merely passive relaxation or, New Age fluff. It is an active, rigorous manipulation of both physiological and cosmological states. Daoist contemplative science straight up refuses to separate the mind from the physical body. It's an intensely somatopsychic methodology. You aren't just sitting there calming down. You are actively optimizing your physiological vitality to facilitate integration with the cosmos itself.
Moving right along to Section 2, Taxonomy of Contemplative Types, the 5 pillars. Over roughly 2 millennia, Daoism developed these 5 major operational categories. And it's like a progression, right? It transitions the practitioner from the sheer emptiness and stillness of apophatic meditation, like Zuowang, literally sitting in oblivion, to highly complex imaginal visualizations. The active ingestion of environmental energies, inner observation heavily influenced by Buddhist insight, and ultimately to Neidan, which is internal alchemical transmutation.
And looking at Neidan specifically, just notice the concrete progression here. This isn't abstract philosophy. It is a literal physiological operation. Practitioners are transforming their psychosomatic experience by systematically upgrading physical essence, jing, into vital energy, or qi. Then that qi is refined into spirit, shen, and that gets pushed all the way up to a non-dual cosmological union with the Tao. It's almost like they're progressively upgrading the body's hardware and software simultaneously.
Now, if we look at the earliest apophatic form, Zuowang, we see this highly structured 7-stage protocol. This comes straight from Sima Chengzhen's classic Tang Dynasty text. And again, this isn't just closing your eyes and hoping for the best. It's a systematic dissolution of the ego identity. You start with basic moral alignment and physical seclusion, you move through restraining the mind, and eventually you hit true observation, where you literally identify with the universe rather than your physical self. This culminates in a state of cosmic peace where the ego completely dissolves into the underlying current of the Tao.
What's really wild about this visual is how it anchors the practice physically. Daoists map the physical viscera and meridian channels as a literal microcosm of the universe. So when they practice visualization, kunsi, they aren't just imagining abstract shapes in their heads. They're targeting specific organs to modulate autonomic output and circulate energy. The body is treated as the universe miniaturized.
Just to give you an example of how specific this gets, during practices like Kung Shang, adepts actively project the macrocosm directly into the microcosm. They literally track the Big Dipper constellation down into the body, bringing its 7th star, the celestial pass, to rest right in front of the mouth, eventually channeling those cosmic primes straight into the internal organs. I mean, this is stunningly precise visual-spatial neuroprogramming.
Which brings us to Section 3, Neurocognition and Predictive Processing, the Mechanics of Consciousness.
To really grasp the depth of these practices, we have to translate these ancient operations into the language of modern cognitive neuroscience. Under the predictive processing framework, Daoist meditation actively alters the brain's Bayesian inference engine. According to the SAIS hypothesis, consciousness is effectively the product of synergistic interoceptive inference. By leveraging these ancient somatopsychic tools, practitioners are tweaking the top-down predictions their brains use to explain internal bodily sensations, minimizing prediction error and achieving profound allostatic control.
And this dual language framing reveals something genuinely incredible. The ancient concept of circulating qi maps almost perfectly onto our modern neuroscientific understanding of allostasis. Think about it. Both qi and allostasis are proactive. They anticipate an organism's needs and they prevent imbalances long before they manifest as psychosomatic symptoms.
The Daoists were practically mapping interoceptive active inference centuries before we ever fired up an fMRI machine.
And the clinical parallels are striking. Recent research actually shows that psychedelic therapeutics and specific Daoist attention techniques alter the brain's neural networks in remarkably similar ways. By inhibiting the ventral attention network and enabling the dorsal attention network, they relax maladaptive prior beliefs and massively amplify interoceptive inference. It's gotten to the point where researchers are literally recommending we combine psychedelics with Daoist somatic scanning to dissolve bodily tension and heighten consciousness.
Let's contextualize this in Section 4, Comparative Contemplative Science, where it fits. If we contrast the Daoist framework with other major Eastern contemplative systems, a clear distinction emerges. As this matrix shows, unlike the Buddhist focus on formless emptiness and transcending the physical form, Daoist Neidan is exceptionally physiological. The primary mental operation here is a progressive somatic transformation deeply focused on the physical viscera and the lower dantian. They aren't trying to escape the body, they are using it as the primary vehicle.
And this leads to a really fascinating historical cross-pollination. Chan, or Zen Buddhism, is essentially the evolution of Indian Buddhism adapted directly under Daoist somatic conditions. When Indian Vijnana met Chinese Daoism, the Daoist vocabulary and somatic practices, things like deep abdominal breathing, were fully absorbed. So when you see Zen practitioners today focusing heavily on the lower abdomen, you're looking at a direct 100% adoption of Daoist physiological methodology.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, Modern Clinical Psychotherapy, Concrete Applications.
How is this being used today? Well, researchers are literally translating ancient Zuowang texts into modern psychiatric interventions. Take this merging oblivion meditation protocol. It helps patients dissolve rigid bodily boundaries and achieve non-dual awareness through guided cosmic imagination. And it does this without requiring them to undergo decades of grueling monastic apophatic training. It's a highly distilled clinical application of the ancient tech.
There's also a profound link between this ancient cosmology and dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. Developed by Marsha Linehan and heavily influenced by Zen, DBT is effectively a modern clinical translation of the Daoist yin-yang cosmological framework. Think about the core dialectic of DBT. You have to wholly accept a patient exactly as they are while simultaneously pushing them to change. That is the literal essence of balancing opposing yin and yang forces in real time.
Both Daoist internal alchemy and modern somatic psychotherapies have converged on a fundamental truth. You cannot simply think your way out of trauma. Cognitive insight alone just isn't enough. You have to physically track and metabolize trauma through the body's neural architecture. Practices like Neiguan actively condition the nervous system, while Neidan circulates energy to clear those deep, stubborn psychosomatic blockages. By completely and utterly rejecting Cartesian mind-body dualism, Daoism offers a biologically integrated path to psychological resilience that Western medicine is honestly only just beginning to mathematically model. The mind and the physical vessel are fundamentally inseparable. It's a package deal. So, where do we go from here? The future of cognitive neuroscience lies in directly testing these specific Daoist interventions. We need to get practitioners doing organ visualizations like Kunsi into an fMRI to see exactly how they physically modulate the autonomic nervous system. Enriching our current, somewhat disembodied Western mindfulness programs with Daoist somatic dual cultivation could absolutely be the key to major breakthroughs in treating emotional dysregulation.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If the SAIS hypothesis is correct, are modern psychological treatments missing the most crucial piece of the puzzle by ignoring the profound somatic technology mapped out by Daoist practitioners centuries ago? It really seems like mastering the mind absolutely requires mastering the vessel it resides in. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep learning.